What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the A24 Archive. This is the segment on my channel where I go back through A24's entire catalog from the first film that they released all the way till whenever I get caught up. And I think this was my 55th film in their catalog, and this was a movie that I remember when it was first released got pretty terrible reviews when it first came out. I think it had like a 1 or 2 week limited release in the theater, and then it immediately got dumped on VOD. And because of a lot of the initial reviews, I just had zero interest in watching this movie. But I do really love Kirsten Dunst, and because of that, I wanted to check it out. And also thematically, it was really interesting. And it felt like it was a type of movie that, if executed the right way, I would really enjoy. And the movie I'm going to be discussing with you today is Woodshock. Woodshock is directed by Kate Mulleavy and Laura Mulleavy. Teresa, a haunted young woman spiraling in the wake of profound loss, is torn between her fractured emotional state and the reality-altering effects of a potent cannabinoid drug. So as I said, this movie got really terrible reviews on its initial release. I wasn't really all that interested in it when it first came out, and I'm to the point in A24's catalog where it was time to watch it, and I didn't like this movie very much at all. Honestly, I respect the hell out of what it was going for, and I think there was a clear vision for this movie. I just think the execution falls flat in about every single way. A lot of people joked about how this is like Melancholia light, and that is pretty much a nail on the head. Whereas Lars von Trier's Melancholia is one of the most beautiful art house films ever made, that does such an amazing job at like capturing the real feeling of depression and isolation and hopelessness that comes with grappling with depression. This movie feels more like a Lifetime film. On the outside, when you're looking at it, they're like, oh, this is this art house film that incorporates drug use into dealing with mental health issues and dealing with overcoming loss. But it just has the most bland, mundane story laden throughout that it should have just really stuck to being an experimental film. So at the beginning of the film, we're introduced to Teresa, played by Kirsten Dunst, and she's living at home with her very sick mother. And we find out really early on in the film, Teresa works at a weed shop selling marijuana products, and she ends up giving her mother a laced joint so that she's able to kill herself because she's going through this immense pain and she doesn't want to live anymore. And so she assists her mother with her suicide. And shortly after, we're introduced to her boyfriend, who really wants her to move off her mother's property after her mother's death. He thinks she's just getting worse and worse by living in that place and having to relive those experiences over and over again, but she loves being there. She says it's really important to her to being there, and he ends up convincing her to go back to work. She goes back to work at this weed shop, and the entire movie is us watching her deal with this grief and overcoming this grief while also working at this weed store and having a man coming in saying that he wants a product like what her mother got and he no longer wants to live, and her trying to come to terms and make the decision on whether or not she wants to do that and give that person the opportunity to do that. So as I said, I wasn't a huge fan of this movie, but for positives, Kirsten Dunst is awesome. I mean, pretty much anything that she gets put in, she somehow manages to deliver an excellent performance, and this is no exception. She does a lot with a hell of a little, and I think that says a lot about her as an actress. I felt like every time she was on screen, or even when she had moments that were quiet and solitary, that she did a really nice job through her facial expressions, letting you feel her grief and feel the trauma that she's experiencing. I also really liked the cinematography in this movie. It was very dreamlike. It was very trippy. They did a really nice job experimenting with color. I liked the overlays that they did. It really made you feel like it was a drug trip in moments. It can be hard for filmmakers to accurately capture that, and I think they did a really nice job in this particular movie capturing that feeling and that essence. But that is about as far as the positives go for me. The remainder of this movie is a real slog, and I think it's because the narrative through line is so forced and the dialogue of the narrative is so sloppily thrown together. It just felt like a student film. Every single conversation between Kirsten Dunst and her boyfriend, or the guy that works at the weed shop, or anyone that came in and out. It just felt so inauthentic compared to how authentic the emotions when Kirsten Dunst is at home alone reflecting on her mother's death felt. Like the contrast was so drastically different to where I felt like I was watching two different movies. There's all these really amazing, trippy sequences where Kirsten Dunst's character like wanders into the middle of nowhere, and the attention to detail and the cinematography and just everything really encapsulates that feeling that the movie is trying to go for. But as soon as you're pulled back into that reality, it's stripped away immediately from the poor performances from everyone else in the movie and just the lackluster screenwriting, unfortunately. I did like some of the moments of sound design in this that really kind of captured that trippy, ethereal feeling that you get from a drug trip. And I liked that part of the film. The problem is there's just not enough of that. Just the regular story is so bland. And then they try to blow it up into this chaos in the third act, and I didn't feel like any of it was earned. By the time it got there, I just felt like, oh, they want to do something for shock value, something to make you feel like you didn't just waste an hour and 45 minutes of your life. And unfortunately, that didn't save the movie for me. And yeah, I don't have much else to say about this. It's relatively forgettable. I don't think you'll get a whole lot out of it if you check it out, but I could be wrong. If this sounds like something that interests you, by all means check it out, but it definitely wasn't for me. Have you seen Woodshock? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was really bad. I didn't enjoy it all that much, and I will probably never revisit it again. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.